What it do, guys? Manjoume here, and today we're checking out the Transformers deck building game War on Cybertron base set from Renegade Studios. Now, this is super cool. I actually thought this would be a small box expansion, but it looks like it's a full-on base expansion. So, that means it'll have your starting cards, basic cards, all that stuff. Multiple characters. Let's check it out. Front of the box, we have Optimus Prime, Megatron, and others. I'm not too well versed in Transformers lore, but here they are. Like, I would guess this is RC, but I'm not exactly sure. Looking at the back of the box, till all are one. The war on Cybertron has raged for millennia. Autobots and Decepticons clash with blaster and robotic fists to determine the fate of their homeworld. As their battle reaches a climax, one shall stand, one shall fall. Will you answer the call to war? In this deck building game, you will take on the role of a soldier for one of the warring factions. Autobots or Decepticons traverse the ruins of the battlefield and convert between your modes to gain allies, complete missions, command cities, and acquire technology to battle your enemies. Transformers deck building game War on Cybertron is a standalone game and expansion that can be combined with the core set or any additional expansions. Engage your adversaries in 3 modes of play: team versus team, cooperative, or go alone as a solitary soldier against all odds. Components: 40 starter cards, 41 basic cards, 86 main deck cards, 12 boss cards, 10 encounter cards, 20 mission cards, 10 ruin cards, 8 oversized character cards, probably 4 of each, 8 player standees that go with, they kind of match out because you get a little stand for your character, 50 Energon cubes, 3 reference cards, 4 command tokens, 16 tracking tokens, 36 victory tokens, 8 reminder tokens, and a rulebook. Cover artist is Matt Frank, and cover colors Joanna LaFuente. Game features: battle for control over Cybertron cities and over 175 cards, including 8 playable characters. Navigate a matrix of cards to gather allies, complete missions, and defeat adversaries. Really cool stuff. Again, I didn't expect this to be a full-on, like, big box expansion, which is actually pretty cool. So we'll set that aside, keep that there. Have a little piece of paper for their other games, which include the Power Rangers role-playing game, G.I. Joe deck building game, role-playing game, and Power Rangers base set for their deck building game. This one's actually really fun. It is, at least for now, 1v1. 2 players are required to play this, but in the future there will be an expansion to turn it into a solo player type game with the additional cards. Probably some kind of mission or something like that. Here's the manual, which I think actually looks really nice. Aside from that, it looks mostly the same to the other ones, although it is nice to see how it's supposed to be laid out. The field, that is. One thing I think we don't always get are these ruins. I think they sent an email, or it might just be on the website, where you print out this ruin thing to put on a card or something like that. I'll have to double check it, but that's going to be interesting. You have your mission cards specific to you. So the missions I'm not super aware of yet. Some roles in the game I'm not as well versed in. I've played single player and I played cooperative with people before. I haven't played competitive too much, and it sometimes the rulebook is kind of iffy. Hopefully this one, being the newest one, will be really good. So here's all the tokens. That's really cool. They're all in there, including your standees, which just are little pictures on these little cards, and you put them on these stands. So basically, I push down on it to make some room so I can get him in, push it through, and then you have your standee, and you play him on your field. Can you even see that? There, he's standing right there. It's hard to see because it's straight up, but he stands on top of the Matrix. So that's really cool. You have all these Energon cubes. They're really cool. They're translucent pink, so they actually really fit the theme. And then these other slots, you would put your other tokens. Probably, at least before we had whatever these are, I would put the victory points in one. I would put the ongoing and these minus movement, and on the other side of the movement is usually energy. It is in there. It's usually how I store them. See, the character cards are thusly. You have another Optimus Prime, which we actually had him in the base set, but this is kind of, I'm guessing, a redoing of that to a degree. Maybe it's not. It might be completely off. But at least we have a second Optimus Prime, who is Command or Confront. +1 power for each card you control with cost 3+. Pay 1 Energon, block, and attack against any character anywhere in the Matrix. That's actually pretty cool. Pay 2, gain 1 victory point or draw 2 cards while on a polity under your command. I don't know what a polity is, but in his alt mode, he is a truck. He has 2 movement. When you move on to a face-up adversary, you may convert before the ambush or draw 1 card. So that makes it a little safer to it makes it a little safer to go onto something and then flip it over, because normally you just have to do an ambush and you don't get to transform. This would let you transform and he can block an attack, so that can actually be pretty useful. Next up we have Ileto 1, 3 movement, it's a fast car. Spend 2 move, draw 1, which is good. You have almost a built-in, you can do that at least once per turn. You only have 1 movement, but other cards can let you move, so that's actually pretty nice. When battling adversaries, -1 power. That's kind of more what I thought Optimus would have, but he actually doesn't, which is really cool because all of the base set Autobots did have the -1. In our bot mode, when you buy or gain an Autobot, place on top of your deck. So kind of a Aquaman from the DC deck building game base set. Pay 1 Energon, target Autobot you control has +2 power. It's actually pretty cool. Pay 2, target character in your space gains 1 damage for each Autobot you control. That's pretty neat. Next up we have Hot Rod, who you would think would have 3 speed or 3 movement, but doesn't. Discard 1 non-damage card you may convert. That's actually pretty nice. When battling adversaries, -1. His bot form, when you battle an adversary in the same turn it was revealed, target card has +1 power. Pay 1, confront, +2 power. Pay 2, destroy up to 2 cards in your discard pile. Next up we have Prowl, 2 movement, pay 1 move, peek at the card in your space or top card of any deck, which could be yours, the main deck, or your opponent's deck if you really wanted to. When battling adversaries, -1. Flip it over. When battling adversaries, each maneuver you control has +2 power. So obviously when you're building his deck, you're going to go for maneuvers. It's pretty good. Pay 1 Energon, draw a card or 1 mission, then replace it with another card in hand or mission you control by placing it on top of that deck. 2 Energon, gain 1 maneuver in your space. That's pretty cool. You would just get it for free, basically. Not bad. So those are the 4 Autobots. Not a whole bunch of cards there, but next up we will take a look at Megatron, who is a tank. 2 movement. First time you battle during each of your turns, target card you control has +1 power. His bot form, when you take command of a polity, you may defeat an adversary robot in the Matrix. Pay 1 Energon, target card you control has +1 power for each polity under your control. 2, command, +3 power or draw a card. Not exactly sure what that means, but it must be pretty cool. We have Slipstream, who has 2 movement, flight, which means you can move diagonally, basically. When you convert to bot mode, you may pay 1 move, place 1 card from your discard pile to the top of your deck. In bot form, when battling an adversary not in your space, your cards with 2+ range have plus 2 power, which means it can snipe people pretty well. Pay 1 Energon, your starter cards have plus 1 range. 2 Energon, draw a card, or return up to 2 damage you control to the stack. So self-healing, really strong. We have Hunger, 1 movement. First time you convert to alt mode this turn, you may give 1 damage you control to target character in your space. Share the love. Hungers, bot mode. When you clear a ruin, immediately refill that space. You may then flip the card face up. Pay 1 Energon, destroy 1 card in your discard pile. That's actually really strong. Pay 2, clear a ruin in your space. Not quite sure what a ruin is, but pretty good in that regard. Barricade, 2 movement. Adversary characters cannot buy a card in your space. Start a turn, you may convert. When battling adversaries, minus 1 power. So you get a free transformation. First time you convert to bot mode during your turn, the card in your space costs 1 less to buy. Really good. Pay 1 to reveal the top 2 cards of the target player's deck. If either is a starter, plus 2 power, but with 0 range. So you can only use it on the space that you're on. 2, gain 1 card from the destroy pile that costs 2 to 4. That actually seems really strong. Then we have some battle reference cards. Battle a bot or boss. So this is actually really useful because it wasn't always clear and I'd always have to go into the rulebook for this. So this is actually going to stay outside of the game likely. Play reference turn sequence. This is also pretty good. Game end, score ending, tiebreakers. That actually answers a lot of questions that I would have. Co-op reference and co-op setup. Yeah, polities. What a polity is. That's actually really strong. How to win or lose. Your team wins if they defeat or destroy all 3 bosses. Otherwise, you lose. Oh man. Yeah, so that's actually really good cards to have. And let's check out some of the main deck cards. Obviously, it's still fully compatible. Let's see. We have Bold instead of Courage. Okay, that's one of your starter cards who pay 1 Energon, pay 1 less power the next time you buy a card in your space this turn. Makes that a little easier. I guess everyone just uses Bold because it's not separate. You have Scout, who actually has Flight, and you may flip a card in adjacent space face up. So that's when you try to find out what's under the spaces adjacent to you. Patch is your fix. Destroy 1 starter you control or 1 damage in your discard pile. That's actually really strong, actually. What did Bold... No, not Bold. Scout. Scout did not have an Energon ability. Let's see, after Patch would be Resupply. If you have no Energon, gain 2 Energon. Otherwise, gain 1 Energon. This is good just because the other one from the core set was like, if you have 3 or less, gain 1. This would be, you just gain 1. Like, there's no limit or no like, oh, if I have 3 or if I have 4, I can't gain any. This one means it's never dead. The one from the core set is dead once you hit 4. This one is never dead, which is really strong. Artillery. This is the +2 energy, 1 range, and confront +1 power. So these are strong. You only get 1. No way to get extras, but it's decent for like starting decks. Our damage, are these all different? Okay, there are some different ones. Okay, so the damage energy leak on your turn you may, first. Damage energy leak. When gained, put into your discard pile, so it's gonna chunk up your hand. On your turn, play this card before you play any other card. Lose Energon if you have 2 or more. End of game, for every damage you control, lose 1 victory point. So there's a bunch there. Second damage we have is Blast Wound. When gained, put into play. So one of them goes into your discard pile. The other one is just put right away. Ongoing. Assists have -1 power for every 2 damage you control. End a game, for every 2 damage you have, lose 1 victory point. So those are the damages. Then for our transform and rollout, and what's the other one called? Something Rise Up. We have reinforcements, which cost 2, so it's like a kick in DC deck building game of Maria Hell in the Marvel deck building game. It has 2 costs, so it's pretty cheap, and it gives you 1, so 1 energy with 1 range and 1 movement. But it also gives you a block, which is really good, so that's a pretty cheap block you can pretty easily buy. And it allows you to convert, meaning you can transform your robot for free. So really good there. And the main deck cards aren't that many. You have Rewind, who's a block. I like that. He's a mini cassette, and it's crazy that he's a mini cassette, but he's an Autobot. There's also Ramhorn, who's also that. Iron Fist, Fire Star, Afterburner, who's a Technobot. Air Raid, who's an aerial bot. Skydive, who's also an aerial bot. Chromia, who's not anything. Blue Streak. Silverbolt, who I didn't know Silverbolt as a aerial bot. I know him as a Beast Wars Maximal, so that's really cool to see him before that happens. Ielita 1. Optimus Prime with his energy axe. Really cool. We have the Terrorcon Cutthroat. Flame War. Slugfest, who's a mini cassette. That one, them being Decepticons makes more sense to me, but okay. Dragstrip the Stunticon. Ramjet. Breakdown, Stunticon, Terracon Rip Snapper, Sunstorm, Slipscreen, Motor Master, Stunticon, Barricade, and Megatron. So that's kind of where that ends. We have some Robo Smasher technology, who's also a block, Anti-Personnel Mine technology. Then we have Armor Plating, a couple of those. We have a good number of blocks in here. Let's see, that's a Cloaking Tech, and let's check out the rest of the cards here. Another Cloaking Tech, Auxiliary Power, gain 2 Energon, 2 Ionic Displacer Rifles, Electro Scramblers, Gideon's Glue. We have some maneuvers, 5-fold maneuver, block King of the Hill, First Strike, Deep Cover, Entrenched, Sneak Attack, Omega Formation, Overwhelming Force. Then we just have some sights, they're singles, Vector Sigma, McAdams, Mining Outpost, Smelting Pool, Rest C, Polyhex, Praxis, Callus, Voss 2. Are these all? Oh, these are sight with polity. So they have different numbers. Maybe it's like you get certain ones in certain parts of the deck, because these are 2s, the other ones were 1s. So Tarn is another 2. Kaon is a 3. Icon is also a 3. Some relics. Key to Vector Sigma. Photonic Crystal. Force Field Generator. Dark Spark. Ooh, that's cool. Sword of Primus. Crystal City. We have some allies. Spy Network. Mercenaries. Guardians. Decimus. MTO. Alpha Trion. Then we have the bosses. So we have Blaster is the level 1 Autobot boss. And Blur. And on the Decepticon side we have Thrust and Dirge. For the level 2 Autobot bosses we have Windblade, who looks really cool, and Springer. On the Decepticon side we have Octane and Turmoil. For the level 3 Autobot bosses we have Ultra Magnus and Superion. On the Decepticon side we have Menasor and Shockwave. Then we have Cooperative Schemes, which is Centurion Droids and Reactor Coolant, Death of Cybertron, Saboteur, Rustworms, The Rise. And we have some Ruin cards, which I think are supposed to have different backings. So I'll probably just maybe use different color sleeves or something. Pile of Scrap, Pile of Scrap, Pile of Scrap, Hazardous Wreckage, Hidden Dangers, Toxic Warzone, Impassable Rebel. Then we have some mission cards, which actually do have different backings, which is really cool. We have Remove the Fallen, Shock and Awe, Stockpile Energon, Weapons Shipment, Fall Back and Regroup, Samazian Dawn, Convoy Duty, Set a Trap, Take a City, Nightmare Engine, R&D, Research and Development, War Room, Reconnaissance, Covert Ops, Doom Patrol, great show, Assist and Defend, Search and Destroy, Operation Devastation, Secure the Artifact, Damage Control. So these are used... Now the missions do say when you can use them. So some of them can be used in a solo game, such as Damage Control, but this Secure the Artifact is only team. Team versus team. Team versus team. This one can be used team versus team, co-op and solo. Team versus team, co-op solo, co-op solo, co-op solo. This one cannot be used solo, but it can be used co-op. TVT, co-op solo, TVT co-op solo, TVT co-op solo, TVT, TVT co-op, TVT co-op solo, TVT co-op, co-op solo, co-op solo, co-op solo, co-op solo. So the majority of these will work in TVT, co-op, and solo. The next up is co-op, because that takes this stack and adds these three. And then TVT, so team versus team, has the most, because it has all those from before and then adds these specific ones that only work for them. And that's a pretty decent mission stack. We're almost done. We have, of course, the encounter cards. Backup, attack, gain 1 damage. Boss confrontation, add X to the adversary's cost, where X is the highest cost of non-boss character card currently in the matrix. Cost of war, lose 2 energon. Boss confrontation, attack, destroy 1 robot you control. If you control none, gain 2 damage instead. If block, destroy the block, if any. So if you block it with Optimus Prime built-in block, there's nothing to destroy, but if you use a card, you would lose the card. Outflanked. Lose 1 victory point. If you have none, discard 1 card instead. Either way, it's bad. Destroy 1 maneuver you control. If you control none, gain 2 damage instead. If block, destroy the block, if any. Again, Optimus Prime would just not have to deal with that. Disarmed. Destroy 1 relic you control, or in your discard pile. If you cannot, gain 2 damage instead. Attack. Destroy 1 technology you control. If you control none, gain 2 damage. If block, destroy the block. War of Attrition, gain 1 damage. Destroy 1 card with a cost 3 plus you control. If you control none, gain 2 damage instead. If block, destroy the block. Ruination, no adversaries can be battled by any player this turn. Boss confrontation, add 2 to the adversary's cost, plus 1 additional for each rune in the matrix. If there are no runes, also gain 2 damage. Power boost, destroy 1 card with 2 plus you control. If you control none, gain a damage instead. Add 1 to the adversary's cost for each energon you control. If it is 2 or fewer, also gain 2 damage. The Jaws of Victory, attack, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a starter, gain 1 damage, otherwise destroy it. Boss confrontation, discard all assists from your teammates. If no teammate assists were played, add 3 to the adversary's cost. Desperate Measures, attack, lose 2 energon. Boss confrontation, add 1 to the adversary's cost, plus 1 for each card in your vault. If your vault is empty, also gain 2 damage. So this kind of thing stops you from just saying, well, if I don't put anything in vault, it doesn't add anything. You still have to deal with the damage. Fair. And that's it for the main deck cards, so I'm going to have to sleeve up all of that, which is going to be loads of fun. And a whole other base set to sleeve up. Also going to be super fun. Gonna take a while. Well guys, that's it for the Transformers deck building game War on Cybertron. If you're looking for a podcast to listen to and you want to learn more of the Spider-Man of the future, Spider-Man 2099, check out Accelerated Visions, a Spider-Man 2099 podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you can find podcasts. If DC is more your thing and you want to learn more about the King of the Seven Seas, check out Water Damage, an Aquaman podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you can find podcasts. Every so often on those podcasts, we will be having episodes that aren't necessarily related to the titular characters. For example, in the DC one, we might be covering other characters at times as a preview of sorts for another sister podcast. If it catches any ground and people like what they listen to, then we will continue on with the series. be sure to follow on those platforms. And if you're able to, leave a rating on Apple Music and Spotify. It really does help us to reach more people, and that is ultimately what we want to do, is to teach and share the love of these characters that may not be getting the most spotlight. Are there plenty of Spider-Man podcasts? Yes. Are there plenty of Spider-Man 2099 podcasts? I'm going to say lesser so. Are there plenty of Batman podcasts? Yes. Superman? Also yes. Aquaman? Not super many. I'm going to say more than there are Spider-Man 2099, but not too many. And I do believe ours is the first that is Aquaman centric and not sharing spotlight with another character. If you want to stay up to date on my videos and live streams both YouTube and Twitch, check out links in the description below. Like, comment, subscribe, and consider joining. That's all for now, guys. Manjoume out.